It was their final quarrel, that much was clear. But although he had been anticipating it for days, perhaps even for weeks, nothing could quell the tide of anger and resentment which now rose up inside him. She had been in the wrong and had refused to admit it. Every argument he had attempted to put forward, every attempt to be conciliatory and sensible, had been distorted, twisted around and turned back against him. How dare she bring up that perfectly innocent evening he had spent in the half-moon with Jennifer? How dare she call his gift pathetic and claim that he was looking shifty when he gave it to her? And how dare she bring up his mother of all people, and accuse him of seeing her too often, as if that was some sort of comment on his maturity, on his masculinity even. He stared blindly ahead, unconscious of his surroundings or of his fellow pedestrians. "Bitch," he thought to himself as her words came back to him, and then, out loud, through clenched teeth, he shouted, "Bitch!" After that, he felt slightly better. Huge, grey and imposing, Ashdown stood on a headland some 20 yards from the sheer face of the cliff, where it had stood for more than 100 years. All day the gulls wheeled around in spires and torrels, keening themselves hoarse. All day and all night the waves threw themselves dementedly against their rocky barricade, sending an endless roar like heavy traffic through the glacial rooms and mazy echoing corridors of the old house. Even the emptiest parts of Ashdown, and most of it was now empty, were never silent. The most habitable rooms huddled together on the first and second floors, overlooking the sea, and during the day were flooded with chill sunlight. The kitchen, on the ground floor, was long and L-shaped with a low ceiling. It had only 3 tiny windows and was swathed in permanent shadow. Ashdown's bleak, element-defying beauty masked the fact that it was, essentially, unfit for human occupation. Its oldest and nearest neighbours could remember, but scarcely believe, that it had once been a private residence, home to a family of only 8 or 9. But 2 decades ago it had been acquired by the new university, and it now housed about 24 students, a shifting population, as changeful as the ocean which lay at its feet, stretched towards the horizon, sickly green and heaving with endless disquiet. The group of 4 strangers sitting at her table may or may not have asked permission to join her. Sarah couldn't remember. Now an argument seemed to be developing, but she did not hear what was being said, although she was conscious of their voices, rising and falling in angry counterpoint. What she heard and saw inside her head was, at that moment, more real. A single, venomous word, eyes blazing with casual hatred, a sense that she had not so much been spoken to as spat upon, an encounter which had lasted 2 seconds, less, but which had now been replaying involuntarily in her memory for more than half an hour. Those eyes, that word, there would be no getting rid of them, not for a while. Even now, as the voices around her grew louder and more animated, she could feel another wave of panic swell inside her. She closed her eyes, suddenly weak with nausea. Would he have attacked her, she wondered, if the high street had not been so busy? Dragged her into a doorway, torn at her clothes. She raised her mug of coffee, held it a few inches from her mouth, looked down at it. She stared at its oily surface, which was shimmering perceptibly. She clasped the mug tighter. The liquid steadied. Her hands were no longer shaking. The moment passed. Another possibility. Had it all been a dream?